A special welcome to Father Stephen Jayad, who's here.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you, Stephen, for joining. Maybe sisters, if you are there, at least in the beginning, you can put your video on so that we can see some of your faces, at least to start, and then you can put your video off.
Okay. Well, just because I put my video on doesn't mean I'm a sister.
No, everyone can put it on.
Not only sister, Mr. also can.
Yeah, Mr. also.
Happy feast to everybody and
happy feast.
Happy feast, Father. Happy feast, Father.
Happy feast.
Since already the wishing is over, I can put off my video.
Yeah, but at least we got to see you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yes. 11 o'clock we start, no? Okay.
Yeah, so can we begin, Dinesh?
Sure, it's up to you. You can already live streaming.
Yeah, Preeti, you can begin. Yeah.
Okay.
But is your chief guest here, your speaker?
She will join in later, so she will join in around 11:20. But
okay.
we will continue with this. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good morning and a hearty welcome to each one of you for this Girl Child Day webinar organized by Jnana Deepa Center for Women's Studies. Your virtual presence makes us glad. In particular, I wish to welcome the guest speaker of the day, Madam Sunita Pandhe Gupta, our President, Professor Francis Gonsalves, the Deans, Professor John Karuvilil and Professor Nishan Irudayadasan, Registrar, Professor Peter Ignatius, Manager of CWS, Father George Cordero, Dr. Dinesh Braganza from the IT team, and Dr. Fabian Jose, Dr. Patricia Santos, and the sisters of the CWS residents who have organized this program. Let us begin this webinar with a prayer dance by sisters Shweta Vinci and Vandana Khalko from CWS. In a society that worships love, freedom, and beauty, dance is sacred. It is a prayer for the future, a remembrance of the past, and a joyful acclamation of thanks for the present. So, let us invoke God's Spirit in our midst and all throughout today's program through this prayer dance.
जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह शाम बलहीन का सहारा पापियों का दोस्त है तू यीशु तू है कितना प्यारा शब्द न कैसे बताऊं बलहीन का सहारा पापियों का दोस्त है यीशु तू है कितना प्यारा शब्द न कैसे बताऊं जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम तुझ में बना रहूं तो अमृत फल लाऊं मैं गाऊं तेरी जय सदा तो तुझ सा बन जाऊं मैं तुझ में बना रहूं अमृत फल लाऊं मैं गाऊं तेरी जय सदा तो तुझ सा बन जाऊं मैं जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम तू ही है जो मुझको बुलाता देता है जीवन जल तेरी शक्ति पाऊं सदा और योजना है सफल तू ही है जो मुझको बुलाता देता है जीवन जल तेरी शक्ति पाऊं सदा योजना है सफल हो जाए जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम जय जय नाम यीशु नाम गाऊं मैं सुबह हो शाम
Thank you, sisters Shweta and Vandana, for creating a prayerful environment for this webinar. The theme for today's program is Arise and Break Free. Abdul Kalam once said, "Give girls wing to fly, not pain to cry and die." Yes, indeed. Given the opportunities, girls have the potential to rise up to any occasion. Let us support the girl child wherever we are and enable them to arise and break free from anything that binds them. By way of information, the United Nations celebrates International Day of the Girl Child on 11th October. The Ministry of Women and Girl Child Development and the Government of India from 2008 started celebrating National Girl Child Day in India every year on 24th January to spread awareness among people about all the inequalities girls face in the Indian society. The Indian Church marks the Day of the Girl Child on 8th September. The feast of the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary, connecting the preciousness of the girl child with Mother Mary. We will now listen to the theme song prepared by Sister Sonia Joseph. Arise, O loving girls, in what God has given you. Rise up, go forth, and break free. Arise in your God-given gifts.
देखो इन्हें ये है ओस की बूंदें, पत्तों की गोद में आसमां से कूदे, अंगड़ाई ले फिर करवट बदल कर, नाजुक से मोती हंस दे फिसल कर, खो न जाए तारे ज़मीं पर। ये तो है सर्दी में धूप की किरणें, उतरे जो देखो इन्हें ये है ओस की बूंदें, पत्तों की गोद में आसमां से कूदे, अंगड़ाई ले फिर करवट बदल कर, नाजुक से मोती हंस दे फिसल कर, खो न जाए तारे ज़मीं पर। ये तो है सर्दी में धूप की किरणें, उतरे जो आंगन को सुनहरा सा करने, मन के अंधेरों को रोशन सा कर दे, ठिठुरती हथेली की रंगत बदल दे, खो न जाए तारे ज़मीं पर। सा सपना और सपने में मिल जाए फरिश्ता सा कोई, जैसे रंगों भरी पिचकारी, जैसे तितलियां फूलों की क्यारी, जैसे बिना मतलब का प्यारा रिश्ता हो कोई। ये तो आशा की लहर है, ये तो उम्मीद की सहर है, खुशियों की लहर है, खो न जाए ये तारे ज़मीन पर। देखो रातों के सीने पे ये तो झिलमिल किसी लौ से उगे हैं, ये तो अंबिया की खुशबू है बागों से बह चले। जैसे कांच में चूड़ी के टुकड़े, जैसे खिले खिले फूलों के मुखड़े, जैसे बंसी कोई बजाए पेड़ों के तले। ये तो झोंके है पवन के, है ये घुंघरू जीवन के, ये तो सुर है चमन के, खो न जाए तारे ज़मीन पर।
Thank you, Sister Sonia, for the inspiring theme song. The Center for Women's Studies owes a debt of gratitude to the President of Jnana Deepa, Professor Francis Gonsalves, and the entire JD faculty for their support and encouragement. May I now request Professor Francis to address us with his encouraging words.
My dear sisters and brothers, on this day, I wish each and every one of you a happy feast. This is a day of great joy because I think we're celebrating 3 feasts and all of them are applicable to women. The first one is the birthday of our Blessed Virgin Mary, our mother, Mary. The second one is Girl Child Day. And the third one, which perhaps we have not remembered so much, is the International Illiteracy Day. The first one we celebrate very well. The second one we are celebrating today, but we tend sometimes to forget the third one. Now, the theme which you have chosen is very beautiful, which is to arise and break free. Arise and break free. But I must confess that I am a little disturbed. I would like to share my disturbance with you. Because yesterday, I don't know whether you saw in the Times of India, the Pune Times, there was this headline which pained me and continues to pain me. It reads like this: I am in pain, let me go. This is the voice of a girl who was 14 years old. I was in so much pain, a new man would come and rape me while I screamed for mercy. I kept begging them to take me home, to at least give me clothes and food, but all of them ignored me, continued to sexually assault me. I'm scared. They will come back for me now and kill me. And where do you think this happened? Not in Afghanistan, not in Pakistan, which we normally in India, in Pune station, which is 8 kilometers away from where I'm sitting. So it is a matter of great shame in a way And I do feel responsible also for this. So I'm supposed to give a message. I really don't know what message I can give. But I was thinking of a process which is going on in the church. And the process is called a synod, which is journeying together. Just last night, I received the documents, and the church is publishing these documents today. The process for a synodal church. And the three words over there, which are very important: communion, participation, and mission. So I thought I'll use these three words to speak on this occasion. The very first one, communion. Communion is our communion with God, the Creator. We belong to different religions. In Christianity, we have the Trinity. Hinduism, you have Sachitananda or Trimurti. And all the religions seem to have something of this communion created by God, and we are going back to God. So I think on this occasion, let us feel one with all of humanity, especially with our sisters and the sisters who are suffering in various ways and who are silent and cannot arise and break free. Then we come to the second, the participation. There's a lot of participation going on. And I, for one, was pretty excited during the Olympics. I have before me a list of people who won in the Olympics, and particularly proud of the women. PV Sindhu, silver medal. Sakshi Malik, bronze for wrestling. Mirabai Chanu, silver for weightlifting. Lovlina Borghain, bronze for boxing. Now, normally you would think wrestling and boxing and weightlifting, this is only for men. But here you have women who won at the highest level. I was even more proud later on at the Paralympics, where the paralyzed people took part with such amount of courage and competence. You had Avani Lekhara, air rifle shooting, won 2 medals, gold and a bronze. And you have Bhavena Ben Patel from Gujarat, table tennis. Now, despite the fact that these people were handicapped, they participated and they did us proud with the Olympic motto, faster, higher, stronger. What is participation? When I feel part of something, then I participate. If I do not feel part of something, I will not participate. Pope Francis spoke of fratelli tutti, which means all brothers. He really means sorelle tutte, which means all sisters. This world, unless I feel part and parcel, that all those who suffer are my sisters and brothers, all those who rejoice are again my sisters and brothers, I will never do any good in this world. And therefore, I invite all of us to participate in this dance of life, in the Olympics of life, so to say, ever looking forward, faster, higher, and stronger. The third word is mission. And here I bring to our attention Mary, Mother of God, and our mother is also respected in the Islamic tradition as Maryam, mother of Jesus, the prophet. And you have the Devis, the goddesses of all the religions. Now, the mission I'm talking about is to go forth. Mary goes forth to help her Didi, her elder sister Elizabeth, and sings that beautiful song, the Magnificat. My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior. And she speaks about the God who throws down mighty from their throne. His mercy is for those who fear him. He has shown his strength with his arm and scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He's brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. Friends, as we are speaking, there are thousands of girls and women whose life is in danger. You know very well I'm talking of Afghanistan, where now the Taliban is ruling. And these girls, a big majority of them, if not all of them, will have their voices muted, will have them silenced really and covered by burqas and exploited in various ways. I'd also like to put up as a model for us, besides Mary, who ran to visit her Didi, her elder sister, cousin sister, what we say, Elizabeth, I put up as a model for us Malala Yousafzai, the Nobel Prize winner from Pakistan, who dared speak out after being shot by the Taliban. She says many beautiful things, but I single out just one, and it is this: let us wage a global struggle against illiteracy, poverty, and terrorism. Let us pick up books and pens. They are our most powerful weapons. sisters and brothers, and our guest and the speaker of the day. All of us are in this together, one with God Almighty, called by various names. Each one of us ought to be a participant, participating in the dance of life, in the Olympics of life, and each one of us is called to go forth. I salute all the women, especially in the world, people who have inspired me like Medha Patkar, Arundhati Roy, Aruna Roy, and others who continue braving really life and going ahead with courage, with great competence. Happy feast to everybody of Jnana Deepa, especially the sisters of CWS. I thank in a very special way Dr. Patricia, Dr. Fabian, who are there guiding all our students and each and every student of ours at JD. God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Francis, for your inspiring message. I now invite Dr. Patricia Santos, the Director of the Center for Women's Studies, to give us some information about the center.
So good morning, and thank you to all those who have helped in this organization. I'm happy to share with you a little bit about the Center for Women's Studies, which has begun recently. Of course, we did have the Women's Students Forum on the campus, but this is something that has developed quite recently. And the Center for Women's Studies actually seeks to promote the vision within the JD campus as well as outside, especially among priests and women religious first. So this is an interdisciplinary center that seeks to foster gender-sensitive relationships, research and action through supportive networks, including feminist scholars, theologians, religious and secular women, and institutes and centers for women and gender studies at the local, national, and international levels. The vision of the center is really to create a gender-just institution, church, and society that promotes fullness of life. So we have actually two, you can say, arms of the center. One is within the institution and the other is outside. So within the institution, the Center for Women's Studies functions as the Women Students Forum. And it has a number of objectives. The first thing is to offer opportunities for the staff, students, and researchers to develop critical and creative skills for gender inclusive research, integral spiritual growth, and pastoral involvement at the grassroots. To nurture awareness and respect for the dignity and rights of all, especially women. To advocate the use of inclusive language in all our communication among staff and students, and in the courses, theses, and publications. And to network with other centers in JD to further the objectives of the CWS. Now, we have other centers in on the campus. So JD Center for Women's Studies is one of the 4 centers, the other 3 being the Center for Science and Religion Studies, the Center for Pastoral Management, the Center for Spirituality. And the purpose of all these centers is to keep in touch with the developments in these fields, as well as to offer programs, courses, and consultancy services for others outside the walls of this campus. We are also interested in fostering relationships among women by encouraging openness, transparency, and collaboration. And so we have a number of activities that we will be planning through the year. The forum will pay attention to specific problems of women staff and students. It will encourage women doctoral scholars to share, discuss, and publish their research. So this is a platform that doctoral students, especially women who do not get a chance, to share their research in different forums, so they can share it over here on the campus, as well as among the women students. And finally, to endorse the study and implementation of the gender policy of the Catholic Church in India promulgated at the 20th Plenary Assembly of the CBCI in 2008. So this is something that many people do not know about. I usually take it in all my classes in feminist theology, but I don't know whether even the staff are aware of it. So it would be nice that we promote this first in the campus and then, of course, outside the campus as well, as we network with others. Now, for inter-institutional collaboration, that is outside the JD campus, there is also need to establish supportive gender-sensitive networks and partnerships with feminist scholars, theologians, religious and secular women, and institutes and centers for women and gender studies at local, national, and international level. And I think today is the most appropriate day that we have Sunita, Pandhe, Gupta with us. So we've already begun networking with someone who is very much involved, in the University of Pune, in other Center for Women's Studies in other colleges, both here in Pune as well as she's been in Delhi. And so this is the first, venture that we can already begin to network with others. So to network also with like-minded individuals and organizations in framing gender equitable policies and gender sensitization programs. To disseminate research, resources, and information on women and gender issues. To encourage the scholarship and promotion of research using the lens of intersectionality. Of course, this is something that is now becoming more and more common, not only in women and gender studies, but intersectionality is being used in many others, in sociology, in development studies, in Dalit circles. And so this is something that we would be using. To analyze the multiple intersecting oppressions of gender, caste, class, culture, and religion. And to make, of course, this space and resources for women and other persons to come together and engage in intellectual and spiritual conversations, discussions, seminars, and activities to promote the vision and mission of the center. And I think one of the most important things is we're very fortunate that we have the CWS residents over here with Sister Fabian, Dr. Fabian as the moderator. And I think this is a beautiful space. And so we hope that we will be able to offer more residential facilities and workspace for individual women students and researchers to pursue studies on short-term or long-term basis, and also to get women's groups to conduct seminars, discussions, and other academic activities. And finally, we hope to provide information about other women and gender centers, both in the city of Pune as well as at national and international levels. So thank you, and I look forward to your support and collaboration to make all these things possible.
Thank you, Thank you, Dr. Patricia, for enlightening us about the center. To be inspired is great, but to be an inspiration is an honor. We are privileged to have in our midst a very inspirational woman, Madam Sunita Pandhe Gupta, to deliver the lecture for today's function. Madam Gupta has served as head of the department, Sociology in Fergusson College, Pune from 2005 to 2017, and is currently teaching part-time at Gokhale University and Pune University. She has been a lecturer at St. Mira's College, Pune, Center for Women's Studies, University of Pune, and also taught in the Department of Sociology at the University of Pune. She was the internship coordinator at the National Center for Advocacy Studies. She has much experience in women's studies and has even taught previously in Delhi. Welcome, Madam Gupta, Honorable Speaker of the Day. The floor is all yours. I request all the participants to put any comments or questions in the chat. We will take up the questions in the Q&A session.
Sunita, you can unmute and put on your video.
Yes.
Yes. You have, yeah, yes. No, you are again muted. Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I was just having this last minute conversation with Sister Helen. I'm sorry, I'm more familiar with her as Sister Helen, and I need to really read. Okay, Dr. Patricia. Okay. It's an honor for me to be invited to the Center for Women's Studies, Jnana Deepa. I have some association with Jnana Deepa in the past, but I will not go into that right now. Let us begin. Without much fan and frill, I was very much taken up by the topic of today's talk when Sister Helen shared it with me, and she said it is awaken to break free. I'm going to talk a little bit about the topic, and then we'll move on. And in case, you're not able to hear me or something, please communicate, because I'm not familiar with Zoom, and generally I'm technologically challenged, And whenever I have to give these webinars, more than thinking about the topic that I'll be talking about, I'm thinking about what if something goes wrong. So please, help me with that. If we are talking about awaken to break free in the forum like Center for Women's Studies, I'm sure many of you would really understand what we are talking about. And here, what I would like to start off is the entire women's movement across the globe, which also was called as the feminist movement. I'll use them interchangeably. The feminist movement was born out of this intermarriage of academics and activism. In other areas, you see academics and activism as being separated. Whereas, whether you want to call it gender studies or whether you want to call it feminist studies, here we see both being intertwined with each other. It is women's activism, women's fighting for their rights, which gave rise to feminist studies or women's studies. When women started looking at where are the women, in academia, if I'm going to talk about academic issues, where are the women in academia? And you saw that there is complete invisibility of women in academia. My discipline is sociology. And when I was studying, or even when I was teaching sociology, and when we were talking about thinkers, sociological thinkers, founding fathers of sociology, there was never a mother. You see that all sociologists are white, urban, middle-class men, as if thinking never happened outside these arenas. There was a change in this with women's studies and women's movement becoming popular globally. And as I said, that women began questioning and challenging their invisibility and their absence, not only in academia, but in all fields, in legal fields, in religious fields, in everywhere, in political field. they started questioning. And out of this questioning rose women's studies. And so you see that this is one area where activism and academics cannot be separated. And therefore, the very fact when we say awaken, to break free, awaken is this, becoming aware, becoming sensitive to gender issues around us. Okay, getting to know them, getting to know why things are the way they are, will all be, in this arena of to be awakened. But what is the purpose of this awakening? What is the purpose of knowledge itself? Is knowledge just for sake of knowledge? Or does knowledge have a certain purpose? And here, in this context that we are meeting today, the purpose of knowledge, the purpose for being awakened is to break free. That is, knowledge has a purpose of liberation. We want to engage in knowledge that will lead to human liberation. And here, women's studies is very much connected with this this task of breaking free of the shackles of patriarchy. Okay, and now if I am addressing I don't know what to call them, participants of Center for Women's Studies, I would assume that you are familiar with certain concepts like patriarchy and gender. So I'm working on these assumptions. You could correct me if I am wrong. You could add and comment. Please feel free to stop me. I hate, for me, education is a communication. Father just spoke about participation. If you're not involved, it's just a one-way dialogue. It's not a dialogue, it's a one-way monologue. And monologues are most ineffective ways of communication. I truly believe that education is a two-way process. I can only build upon what you have. I am as a teacher because you are, because we are. Without you, I cannot exist. And for me, so it is a little intimidating for me to talk to someone whom I don't know. Okay, so please, I can only know you now through what you say in this 45 minutes of interaction. So please feel free to stop me, and please feel free to make comments. Okay, so I think so understanding patriarchy, that would be what I would talk about in today's talk. The purpose of understanding various dimensions of patriarchy or various dimensions of women's subordination is precisely to break free, is precisely to dream for and to work towards a world which is more egalitarian, more humane. Okay, so knowledge is not for the sake of knowledge. Knowledge is for human liberation. And in our context, we would say knowledge is for liberation from patriarchy. Okay, having said this, I would also like to, there are usually some misconceptions. And typically when we ask people around us, what do you understand by patriarchy? People are familiar. They would say patriarchy is really about male domination. Or some may go on to say that patriarchy is system of male domination. And so this is something which I am working with, that all of you are familiar with this. And, all of us understand that patriarchy is a system of male domination. But many times when we are talking about breaking free and liberation from patriarchy, then, many times I have been interacting with people and they say, when we smash patriarchy or when we fight patriarchy, are we then wanting to build or wanting to reconstruct a society which is based on matriarchy? To which my answer is a resounding no. The opposite of patriarchy is not matriarchy. Actually, historically, matriarchy never existed, but I'm not going into that debate. What I'm saying is that the opposite of patriarchy is not matriarchy. The opposite of patriarchy is equality. And here, I need to say this because feminism has got a bad name today. And I see this when I'm interacting with students and when I'm interacting with people around me. And I would say that feminism is not aspiring for a world where women will dominate over men. Absolutely not. Feminism is about equality. It is about gender equality. And so if we believe in gender equality, then we all are feminists. Okay. And, as I said, since I don't know you, it's difficult for me to, gauge what you think about patriarchy and what you think about feminism. So, I think it's a beautiful title for the talk, Awaken to Break Free. So all this, for the next half an hour, what we are going to be trying to understand or demystify patriarchy. The whole purpose for it is to use this knowledge, to use this understanding, to fight for a better world, for a more egalitarian world, for a world where there will be gender justice and gender equality. Okay. Having said so, I would like to move on in this whole endeavor of understanding patriarchy, demystifying patriarchy, or let us say this whole process of awakening. Awakening is too much for me. I think I would be able to give you only a few glimpses and a few thought for the day kind of a thing. Okay. So now it's a huge, a very nebulous kind of a term, the term patriarchy. And I am going to start by saying that patriarchy is man-made. It is not given to us by God. That is the first thing in sociological parlance. I don't like to use jargons, but in sociological parlance, we call it patriarchy is a social construct. By social construct, I mean that it is made, it is man-made. It is not natural. It is not encoded in our genes, and it is not God-given. It is a result of historical processes. Okay, it is a result of human interaction with other human beings, human interaction with nature, and it is not natural. Okay, so patriarchy is a social construct. And by that, I mean that it is a product of historical processes. But more than that, what I want to really emphasize that it is not biologically encoded and it is not natural. Now, you may wonder, why should I go into this about, why should I take the pains of saying that patriarchy is not natural, it is not encoded in our genes, and it is not God-given? Why am I saying this? Because if something is natural, something is, a part of your biological makeup, you cannot change it. Going against nature doesn't have a very fruitful results. So if that is the reason why I'm going through this pain of saying that it is not biological and it is not natural or God-given. Okay, it is a social construct. It is a process of historical processes. Again, the reason why I'm emphasizing this is many times people say that men and women are different. Of course, there is no denying that men and women have different biological makeup. The reproductive functions of men and women are different. This is like stating the obvious. But being and women bear children. It's a biological fact. Nothing about this fact tells you why women should be solely responsible for rearing of children. Women are biologically programmed to bear children, but they are not biologically programmed to rear children. Rearing of children can happen in communities. Rearing of children can happen by men, women, anyone. Okay, so women do not, for instance, women do not cook with their wombs. Why should cooking be exclusively women's roles? If you're getting the point that I'm trying to make, is this, that yes, there are certain functions which are biological, but you cannot extend them, which is done by patriarchal institutions and patriarchal ideology, to other fields. That rearing of children, which becomes exclusively women's job today, need not be so. That's the point I'm trying to make. And historically, if you see gathering hunting societies and human, if you look at human evolution, we were in the gathering hunting phase. For 90% of human history was in the gathering hunting phase. And in the gathering hunting phase, the concept was that the entire band looked after little children. It was the responsibility of the community. It was not the responsibility of the biological mother. Okay, so I'm trying to make this kind of distinction because today's sexual division of labor is based on this kind of a understanding that if women bear children, then they will naturally rear children and then naturally do domestic work of cooking and all the care work that goes with cooking, cleaning, laundry, everything. Okay, the point I'm making is that these are socially decided. These are not encoded in our genes. I hope I have been able to make this point about how patriarchy is a social construct. You see, if it was biological or natural, it would be the same across countries, across regions, across historical phases. But it is not. You see, say for instance, if you look at anthropological studies, you will see that in some societies, women canoe building or making of canoe boats is a women's job, whereas building of houses is male job. In another tribal society, it is the reverse. So, canoe making is predominantly male job, and building houses is predominantly women's job. So when there are these historical variations, what does it tell you? It tells you that these are the result of socio-historical processes. That's the point I was trying to make. The other thing that many students have been talking to me, and they say that, ma'am, patriarchy exists everywhere. Patriarchy is universal. Yes, patriarchy exists in agrarian societies, patriarchy existed in ancient societies, patriarchy existed in feudal societies, patriarchy exists in Nepal, patriarchy exists in Sri Lanka, patriarchy exists in Sweden. So patriarchy, historically speaking, in different historical periods, we see different forms of patriarchy. Apart from gathering hunting phase where patriarchy did not exist, those were egalitarian societies. But ever since agriculture and settled agriculture was there, we find some form of patriarchy existing. So the point I'm making is, I'm talking about the universality of patriarchy, that yes, I agree that in different historical times, patriarchy existed. Spatially also. If you see that different countries of the world, many students think that, global north, US, UK, or Sweden, Denmark, these countries are more egalitarian. No, they are not. Patriarchy exists even in these societies. So you see, spatially also, it exists in all societies today. If you want to look at India, you will see that urban patriarchy, nature of urban patriarchy is different from rural, different from tribal. Patriarchy exists in all classes, the rich, the poor, the middle class, but all the forms of patriarchy differs. But patriarchy exists, say, your grandmother's generation and your generation. I actually don't know which generation I'm talking to, but the younger generation. Patriarchy exists across time and space. Okay, and that is what gives it this strong feeling and a strong argument that if patriarchy is universal, does it mean it is inevitable? When we say that patriarchy is universal, does it mean that it is inevitable? And my answer to it is no. It is not inevitable. It is not like law of gravity, something that you have to live with. Patriarchy is not something that we have to live with. It is not like the law of gravity, as I said. It is not inevitable. It is made to look inevitable. Look, the woman is a housewife, the man is a breadwinner, they are complementary to each other. It's such a rosy picture. Why are you shaking all these notions? Okay. Every change is a painful process. Okay. So a fight for equality is going to be a painful process. It's a zero-sum game. Okay. So as I was telling you, that across class, across caste, patriarchy experienced by upper caste and patriarchy experienced by lower caste is different in nature. Okay, and I'll come to this in a little while. But the point that I'm making is that it is not something that we have got to live with. Those who supporters of patriarchy argue that if it is universal, it must be inevitable. Okay, and my disagreement is that yes, it is universal, but no, it is not inevitable. We can aspire for a more gender just and gender egalitarian world. Okay. Having said this, I hope I'm able to kind of put across to you that biological reasoning or biological justification is used to support patriarchy. And I am challenging that biological justification. Many times people tend to say that, women are physically weaker. I actually challenge even that contention. I have also lived amongst tribal women, and if you see tribal women, you don't even have to go to a tribal region, you just have to look at construction sites. And you see head loads, women carrying head loads of construction material. Is that a sign of physical weakness? Women in agrarian economies are carrying water, fuel, fodder, taking cattle for grazing. All this work is quite physically laborious work. Harvesting time, agriculture is laborious work. Okay, and women do it. So how do you say that women are weaker? Interestingly, when this work gets mechanized, women get edged out. Now, when it gets mechanized, now where is that argument about physical labor and women can't do physical labor? But when it gets mechanized, women get edged out and men take over. Okay, but I'll not go into that right now. I hope this is the point that I hope I have been able to make this point, that biological reasoning may be used to justify patriarchy, but it's an argument on very flimsy grounds. Okay, and it can be challenged, and feminist theorization has challenged this to a large extent. That's the point I was making. I'll not go into more details. I'll move on to the next point, and that is, when we talk about patriarchy, we are not talking about individual men and individual women. We are talking about social systems. Okay, many times, in my gender studies classes, I have found male students feeling extremely uncomfortable. It's a very discomforting kind of experience. It's not like studying, law of diminishing returns in economics. It's something that is happening in your daily life. And I can understand this discomfort that they feel. But one of the things that, students have asked me is, does it mean that, this was a question which was put to me just 3 weeks ago. And that was, does it mean that all men are bad? And I have to say the answer is a resounding no. Okay, we are not saying women are all virtuous, good, only victims, and men are the perpetrators of it. No, not at all. In fact, patriarchy also dehumanizes men. Men, to a lesser extent, are also victims of patriarchy. When there are pressures on men to be, to be like alpha men, to be macho-like, to make a career, typical male career. If a young man was to go and tell his parents that he wants to choose dancing as a career, the parents would be appalled. How can you choose such a career? So the point I'm making that patriarchy, the victims of patriarchy are not just women. They are both men and women. And similarly, the perpetrators of patriarchy are both men and women. Okay, women can also be vehicles through which patriarchy is reproduced. Okay, and men also could be. And so men can be feminist and women can be patriarchal. Okay, I mean, I'm saying this because these are some of the misconceptions that I have come across in my interactions with my students. The point I was making is that we are not concerned about individual cases, individual instances. As my discipline is sociology, and as sociologists, we are concerned with patterns. We are concerned in structures. We are concerned with social systems. Okay, so I am going to be looking at patriarchy in two ways. There are two dimensions to patriarchy. One is the structural aspect of patriarchy, and the second is the ideological aspect of patriarchy. What is the structural aspect? What do I mean by this? That patriarchy is enmeshed. It is very much entwined into our social system. Just to give you some idea, again, and sorry I keep saying this, but since I don't know you, it's very difficult for me to gauge. But when I'm saying that patriarchy is a part of a social system, I mean, look at all social institutions. Family. Family is a classical patriarchal institution. Head of the family, always a male. Lineage carried from patrilineal. Patriarchal families are also patrilineal families, patrilocal families. Family as a patriarchal institution. Patriarchy is embedded in it. It is entwined in the institution of family. After marriage, the woman changes her name. The name and inheritance is from the father to son. Typical. And where do we get our patriarchal values from? Where do we get our values of the inferiority of woman and the superiority of man from? We get it from the family. So family as a patriarchal institution. And here again, let me tell you, I'm not talking about individual families. I'm talking about families in general. Okay, education as a patriarchal institution. You have to just look at absence of women. As I said, you go down, if you look at primary education, if you look at pre-primary education, dominated by women, because it is the nurturing role, the mothering role that kind of extends to the public domain, and you see the predominance of women in that nurturing role. Okay, but as you go higher up, how many women IIT professors? as against men. You know, you just need to look at the ratio. So the higher education is dominated by men. You know, in the scientific institution, in educational institution, all institutions of learning. So educational institutions also, you will see patriarchy deeply embedded. Okay, representation of women. Things are changing, but if you look at textbooks, it would say that a woman is a typical middle class household woman is cooking in the house, and the man is reading the newspaper. This is in class 3 textbook. Okay, so what is the message the child is taking? The point again that I'm making is, if you look at the educational institution, you will see patriarchy deeply embedded, enmeshed within the educational institution. Look at political institutions, deeply patriarchal. Look at how 33% reservation for women has been resisted across different political parties and so on. Legal institutions, oh my God, the misogyny expressed by legal experts, by lawyers, even Supreme Court lawyers, is appalling. And I'm not just, again, let me not talk this, you know, I only wish I could take back my words, but what I'm trying to say, the institution itself, the legal institution itself, is patriarchal. The kind of questions they put to, you know, say, victims of sexual assault, and so on. You will know what I'm talking about. Media, classic example of representation of women in a particular way, as a sex object, as an object for gaze, again extending this the sexual division of labor at home, extending it to the media, women as housewives, women as and so on. So also sexual harassment being justified in the media in the name of love. You know, so whether you want to look at the media, whether you want to look at the educational institution, whether you want to look at the economic institution, whether you want to look at the political institutions, all these religious institutions. I don't feel very comfortable talking about it to a group like yours, but religion is one of the most patriarchal institutions. And also religious tenets are used to justify patriarchy. Okay, so if you were to look at all these institutions, economic institutions, okay, you will see that all these, the patriarchy is embedded in it. Okay, look at, let us say, for instance, economic institution. And I was talking about this heavy workload. When mining was manual, women were a large part of it. When mining got mechanized, women were thrown out. Look at the pandemic that happened. Who were the first to lose out on jobs? Women lost out jobs first. They are the first to be fired whenever there is a crisis. Okay, look at typically, if you look at the kind of jobs women occupy, they are low paying, invisible, and so on. So the point I'm making is that all these institutions, that patriarchy is enmeshed in it. It is structural. It is systemic. Okay, that is the point I'm trying to make, and I hope I have been able to make. The second dimension of patriarchy is that it is also ideological. Patriarchy is not just systemic, but there are and what is this ideology? The ideology is basically based on the notion of the inferiority of women. Women are weak, women are emotional, you know, all the stereotyping that goes. And along with women, then, you know, you also have men as strong, men as more rational, these kind of binaries. Okay. And this, not just this, if this, that women as the weaker section, the spare rib is another way of talking about it. Another way is called, women as mother, the eternal mother. Okay. Now, motherhood is a beautiful experience. I have nothing against that. But to reduce women's entire identity only to motherhood and glorification of it, someone who sacrifices, someone who should always put the family interest above herself, to the extent of self-exploitation of women. Okay. So this is what happens. So on the one hand, you will deify motherhood. You will have mother goddesses, but the real mother, the real women could be treated very shabbily, but there is this kind of ideology. You have to just look at what are the notions of the good woman and the bad woman. Who is the noble, virtuous woman and who is the bad woman? And you will know what I'm talking about, the kind of ideology that goes behind constructing women in this way. The other way is, to look at women as housewives, primarily as housewives, okay, and men as breadwinners. This is an ideological construct. Okay, and what do I mean by an ideological construct? That we automatically assume that housework and domestic work will be done by women. It is assumed that it is her primary responsibility. Okay, and so, whenever the women CEOs are interviewed, a typical question that is asked of them is, how do you do this work and home balance? How do you balance these two? How come this question is never asked of a male CEO? Okay, that doesn't the home belong to both? But this question is never asked. And so what the point I'm making is that this is an ideological concept that women are primarily seen as housewives and homemakers and men as breadwinners. Here, by doing so, it kind of hampers, restricts women in exercising her right as citizen. It is very difficult for women to attend political meetings. It is very because why is it difficult for her to attend these meetings? Because she will say that, oh my God, who will look after the house? But if household work was shared by both men and women, a woman will be free to attend these meetings. Any kind of, if you have to take part in any kind of civil, it is called civic labor, you want to contribute to a society in some way, you want to be a part of a certain civil society organization and so on, NGOs and things like that. One of the things that hampers women is their role as a housewife, okay, because of this ideological construction that you are primarily a housewife. It affects her participation in civic life, okay, and it affects her participation in being a full citizen. The Constitution gives her the right of equality and equality to participate as a citizen. But she cannot do it because the private domain, the domestic domain, is primarily her responsibility. Okay, so this ideology of patriarchy also you need to understand. When we try to understand, we need to understand that it has both the structural dimension and the ideological dimension of patriarchy. There are several others. I'm not giving too many examples. How women are seen as sex objects, beautiful. Why should a woman be beautiful? I mean, I don't understand why an air hostess needs to be beautiful. I mean, if she's giving you the services that are required, what has her face got to do with it? You need to ask that, why does certain profession require women to be beautiful? I'll not go into more details of it. The next point that I want to make is that, and this is something that Sister Helen spoke about, and I'm very glad that she spoke about it because it makes my job easier, that if patriarchy is a system, we have to also understand that it is a system which interacts with other systems of domination and subordination. Patriarchy interacts with class. I can see someone has made a comment, and I'm in full agreement with what she's saying, Sister Anna, I think, yeah. Thank you for saying that. The point I'm making, that patriarchy interacts with other systems of domination and subordination, be it class, the rich, the middle, the poor, the class system, be it race or racism, be it caste and casteism, be it ethnicity, religion, whatever, different systems of domination and subordination. And so we cannot understand patriarchy in isolation. If we want to understand what patriarchy is, how it operates, and so how it perpetuates itself, we have to keep in mind that patriarchy is constantly interacting with other systems of domination and subordination, namely class, caste, race, ethnicity, and so on. Okay, and here, Sister Helen spoke of intersectionality. I don't have the time to dwell too much upon it, but I'll just give you one a case. Suppose you want to look at it. Please understand, I'm talking about the present situation in the Indian context. Now, think of a poor, lower caste, Muslim woman. Okay, thank you. And of course, you don't have to apologize for leaving. Thanks. Think of a case of a poor that tells about class, lower caste, talks about caste, Muslim, talks about religious minority. Today, one of the most, oppressed communities, Muslim, woman, gender, religion, caste, class, all intersect. Okay, now, when we take, say, a particular policy, okay, a particular any policy, maybe hiring of workers or firing of workers, or admission in school, admission in other places, any social policy, housing, anything, and think about this woman that I'm talking about. And you will realize that her plight cannot be understood by using only the gendered lens. Okay, just think of what happened to such a woman during the Gujarat riots, or after the Gujarat riots, when Muslims got more ghettoized. Think of the plight of this woman. Can you think about her predicament, her condition, without understanding the class to which she belongs, poverty, the caste to which she belongs, lower caste, the religion to which she belongs, Muslim? Can you understand her plight? So the point I'm making is, when we want to understand patriarchy, we cannot understand patriarchy in isolation. Sorry, I meant we cannot understand patriarchy in isolation. We need to understand patriarchy in the context of class domination and subordination, caste system, class, race, and ethnicity. Okay, this was the third point I wanted to make. Now, I would really like to ask Sister Helen that the next thing I wanted to talk about, what do we understand by patriarchy? But, I would really like to, have some kind of an interaction. I'm assuming that probably you know what it is, what we understand by patriarchy as a system. What I was going to really speak next was a system of domination where there is male domination in the area of women's productivity or labor power, women's reproductivity or fertility, and lastly, women's sexuality. This is what I was going to talk about. But I think I should, pause and take some comments, or if there are some questions, and so on. Sister. Yes, Sister Helen, are you?
Yes, Sonia will interact with you just now, one of our students.
Okay.
Because we have a few minutes, and maybe instead of going to a new topic, I think
no, I don't
collect some. So
Oh.
Sonia, I think, has also picked up some comments from the YouTube, and she will put them to you. Yes.
Okay, and also you need to tell me, I mean, what time are we?
Yeah, ideally speaking, I think we have about five minutes.
Okay,
left.
so then I'll take up all those 5 questions from Sonia, and then respond to it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the wonderful insight that you have shared with us.
Thanks, Sonia.
You were trying to explain to us the theme and elaborating it very clearly to us. You were emphasizing how important for us women it is to come out of the patriarchal subordination and domination, and to reach into that egalitarian society which is yet in our dreams.
Yes.
So it is, as you said, it is a time for interaction. And in the chat box in YouTube, we have found one question that is asked by a scholastic from Africa, Brother Clement. The question, he has made a comment that when Dr. Sunita talks about egalitarian or equality among men and women, I think a more appropriate term to employ here is equitarianism, equity. That's his comment. And he asked the same question. What do you think if we should emphasize gender equity instead of gender equality?
Okay, you go ahead with the other Sonia.
Okay, ma'am. The other question, the name is not very clear, but the ma'am, is this talk about supporting women? If that is so, I feel we will never reach to gender equality. The other thing is, Due to the pandemic, an increase in child marriage, family conflict, a lot of sexual abuse on the side of women. How can women break through? Can we deal with patriarchy in connection with cultures?
Okay.
Yeah, these are the questions we have encountered.
Okay. Actually, very difficult to.
Actually, there's one more I see, Sonia, which is
Okay.
by Sunil.
Yeah, I shall bring it.
Yeah. Or two more there actually.
Yeah. The Sunil Karketa asks, how did all these social construction of binary opposition between men and women come? What could be the reason? Vimal Apu asks, how do we balance the just and egalitarian society in India despite of having many productive rights?
Okay, having many productive rights, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't understood that very clearly, but is that it? Is that
Yes.
it?
It's written that, but I also do not
Yeah,
understand exactly what you meant.
Yeah, but those
another-
are all the questions. Yes.
Yeah, one more question has come in the
Mhm.
YouTube. If it is about gender equality, how you can say it is feminism?
You see, one, when we are talking about patriarchy and when we are talking about feminism, we are not talking only about women. Okay, it's not only up to women to break free. Okay, that breaking free is required by the entire community and the entire society. Okay, so that is what I said. You know, feminism is a very much misunderstood term. Okay, people tend to think feminism is only about women's rights. Feminism is not only about, it is about women's rights, yes, but the ultimate goal of feminism is to bring about or to work towards a gender equal society. Okay, and where both men and women are liberated. Okay, here there is, you see, actually I have very little time, but you see, when you talk about oppression, think about the oppressor also. You know, the oppressor loses his humanity in the process of oppression. You know, and for an oppressor to be liberated, he needs to stop oppressing. You know, we need, but this will need a little more explanation. All I would say that feminism is not against men. Feminism is not against individual men. Feminism is against a system which is patriarchal. Okay, and as I said, that feminism also then, you know, stands for equality in the realm of caste, class, race, you know, all these. So it's a very lofty agenda in that sense. This is one of the myths I've been trying to break for a long time, that when we talk about feminism, when we talk about women's right, it does not mean that we are against men. Okay, or it does not mean that we want to replace male domination by women's domination. That is actually a myth that I have been trying to address to. Now, I don't know how much time. Yes, this, you know, equity, equality, it's fine, you know, what term you want to use is perfectly fine. I have no issues about the term called equity or egalitarianism, equality, you know. To me, all of them signify a a certain direction, you know. So I'll not go into the hair splitting differences. I'm aware about it, but I don't want to go. It doesn't. We don't have the time, and I don't know.
Okay.
If, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
ma'am. One more question has come. Asked by the same person, Bimal Apu. What measures further can be taken to subdue the gender oppression and gender inequality in the context of religions?
Oh, that's a very good question. In fact, and how can women awake? The global domination. What can be done, you know, specifically, and he's asking specifically in the context of religion. I think there are efforts even within religious groups to open up. Look at the fact that you have a Center for Women's Studies. I mean, that's a huge leap, I would say. You know, and that these issues can be openly discussed, theorized. I think that's a great step. And, you know, I feel that, you know, it might look very overpowering. You know, the struggle against patriarchy may look very overpowering. But, you know, small steps, like say, for instance, do we treat our, you know, the women that we interact with, do we treat them with dignity and respect? You know, is one thing. To me, you know, the kind of students I address to are, you know, college-going boys and girls, and I would suggest to them: do you help in household work? Do you help your mother or whoever does the cooking? Typically, it is a woman. Do you help her in cooking and in cleaning, in other things? Start sharing household work. If men start sharing household work, a lot can be achieved. Okay, so it's not that, you know, treating women with dignity, not treating them like sex objects, you know, all this street Romeo tactics, you know, which happen, you know, street harassment of women. You know, I mean, these are things that you can do at a personal level. But most importantly, I would say start participating in housework, you know, in the domestic chores. That is the beginning. And in religion, you know, I have also heard that there are women priests in Hinduism now. You know, certain rites and all, which could only be performed by men, are now open for women and things like that. So,
Okay.
yeah, I
Okay,
think.
ma'am.
Yeah, you have to, you know, see, the time is up to you to say, okay, ma'am, bye, thank you. Okay, you have certain pressures. I have the only pressure to go and feed my grandson. That's all. So
Yeah, there's one more question has appeared.
Yeah.
Asked by Jiva Rose. Dr. Sunita, you had spoken that both men and women become victims of patriarchy. So what do you suggest about the change that could be brought up to the system?
Yeah, see, what could be the, you know, like say, for instance, about men. Let me also give an example about men. You know, this typical thing about, you know, the pressure on boys, you know, to perform well in exam, to join IIT coaching classes because you have to be an engineer and things like that, because you have to be the breadwinner. As a painter, you know, like I remember one student of mine saying that my parents are saying, as a painter, you can't make a living, you know. So that boys cannot express emotions, you know, that boys are not meant to cry. You know, crying is a sign of weakness in men. Now, these are also patriarchal expectations out of men, you know, which puts unreasonable demands on them. Now, think of a child, a male child, I mean, a youth really, who is not interested in going in for engineering, but wants to do painting. Think of the pressure, and that pressure is a patriarchal pressure. So I would say that if parents also, you know, are more in tune with their child's dreams and aspiration and stop putting these pressures, it would be helpful. And I would say things like men can't cry. Why? Don't they feel the pain of loss? Why should they always act courageous? They also have weaker moments. So why should? So patriarchy also, in a sense, victimizes them. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, it's almost time for us to stop.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for answering to the questions. Thank you for interacting with us.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
I think it's time for us to move to the concluding part.
Yeah,
Now I
sure.
invite Sister Preeti to take over.
Thank you, Sonia. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. It gives me immense joy to invite Sister Mercy to propose the vote of thanks. Sister Mercy has been the coordinator of Women Students Forum for the past 2 years and supported the forum even during the pandemic. So, on behalf of Dr. Patricia, the director of the Center for Women Student Studies and animator of the Women Students Forum, Dr. Fabian, the moderator of CWS Residence, and all the sisters, I extend my thanks to Sister Mercy. We are grateful for your selfless service rendered to the Women's Forum. You had taken great interest in the forum, and with the collaboration of the forum members, you arranged different activities and programs. Thank you for your support and generous service. We pray that God be your strength for each day, light for the way, grace for trials, help from above, unfailing compassion, and eternal love. God bless you abundantly.
Thank you, Sister Preeti, for your kind words. Counting our blessings goes hand in hand with being grateful. First of all, I thank God for this wonderful opportunity to celebrate Girl Child Day in utmost gratitude of the sex to which we belong. On behalf of Dr. Patricia, the director of the Center for Women's Studies, all the sisters and JD administration, I express our deepest sense of gratitude to the guest speaker of today, Sunita Pandhe Gupta. We are grateful to you, ma'am, for responding to our invitation and for rekindling our spirit through your insights. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
On this occasion, I feel privileged to acknowledge and thank the JD administration who always render encouragement, support, and opportunities for us women, starting from Professor Francis Gonsalves, our president. We thank you, Father, in a special way for your message today and for your valuable presence with us. I extend our gratitude to Professor John Karvelin, Dean of Theology, Professor Nishant Irdedasan, Dean of Philosophy, Professor Peter Ignatius, the Registrar, Father George Cordero, the Manager of the Center for Women's Studies, and Dr. Fabian Juice, the Moderator of CWS Residence, for your unwavering commitment and availability to us. Very specially, my heartfelt thanks to all our CWS sisters who contributed to the success of today's celebration. Dear Dr. Patricia, I express our gratitude to you for organizing this program, and I take this chance to acknowledge your enthusiastic and energetic leadership in directing the Center for Women's Studies in ways possible, even though we are physically distanced during this pandemic. We thank you, dear Sister Preeti, for welcoming the gathering and for anchoring the program. Dear Sisters Sveta and Vandana, thanks to you for invoking God's blessings through your gentle movements. Dear Sister Sonia, you have brought out the theme of today with a beautiful song and inspiring animation. Thank you very much. We are indebted to remember and thank all our support staff members of JD, CWS, and PG Block who are always ready and willing to stretch out their helping hands. Last of all, I appreciate all of you, dear faculty and students, for your active participation in today's event. Once again, I thank you one and all. I wish each one of you a very happy feast and a good afternoon. God bless us all.
So thank you, Mercy, and thank you to everyone. I think it was a beautiful morning, and especially because